Happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome back to All About America's Team, brought to you by Delahanty Media. I am your host, Ray Nickens, joined with, as always, by,
Owen the Chico.
and we are back fresh off a bye to talk about the Cowboys matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. On today's show, we'll be going into some history, little history lesson from yours truly on the bye week before going into the Cowboys Sunday night game. We will discuss some key matchups of the game. I will share my game plan for Dallas in order for them to get the W. And finally, we will share our thoughts on the Dak Prescott situation as well as the practice battle between Lyle Collins and Terrence Steele. But we are excited to get this ball rolling. But first, Owen, do you have any news for us today?
Well, one of the things is obviously the most concerning is the Dak injury, but we're going to get into that later. Michael Gallup, I just read he will not be making his return this week. Kelvin Joseph, like Gallup, they have a 3-week window from when they're activated. So both players, Kelvin and Gallup, will only have 2 more games to be activated, and if they are not, then they will be on the IR for the rest of the season. So hopefully, Kelvin will be able to come back next week against Denver. And Stephen Jones said that as soon as he's activated and playing, right, getting real reps, that he's going to try. He's gonna make a push for that cornerback number 2, which I love. I think it's really great to see a guy who didn't really have the greatest college career with, I guess, off the field, but just not trying. But obviously, no one really knows what happened there. But I really like the culture that Dallas has brought in, and hopefully he'll be able to solidify as that number 2 corner and give Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis a run for their money. And hopefully in the next few weeks, maybe even Nashawn Wright will be able to get some run. But I think those are the two. And also Tristan Hill may come back. Or he was designated to return as well. Um, Demarcus Lawrence keeps on tweeting and sending Instagram stories about him coming back, so he'll probably be back within the next month or so. Hopefully by probably the Raider game, maybe after. So the Raider game after the Chiefs, sometime after Thanksgiving, he'll probably be around. And I think that's all that I have. Ray, do you have any other injury things that you can think of? Hopefully Diggs plays. He's questionable, but hopefully he'll play.
I said to you, Owen, before we are recording this that Dak, I believe, there's a very high percentage that Dak will play, and I believe that there's even a higher percentage that Trayvon Diggs will play.
Yeah,
So I'm very confident that Trayvon Diggs will be out there.
yeah. I
Other
hope
than
because they're gonna
yeah,
need him out there.
oh, absolutely. If he's not out there, then our defense will look very similar to what it did last year because we won't have that X factor, as they say in Madden, to carry the ship.
Oh yeah. So
Or
why don't we get
in
into
better terms, sail the ship.
yes.
Yes, but anyway, let's get right into the show. So, but before we get into the Cowboys game against the Minnesota Vikings, I'm going to give everyone just a little history lesson on the bye week because the Cowboys are coming off a bye week. They are supposedly well rested, according to Mike McCarthy, and so I just wanted to give you guys as listeners just a quick history lesson. So first, what is the bye week by definition? Well, the bye week refers to an organizer scheduling a competitor not participate in a bye week. No, that's not right. Refers to organizers scheduling a competitor to not participate in a round of competition. So basically, pretty straightforward. The team, competitor, organization does not show up and compete in a scheduled event. So for the NFL, it would be a NFL team taking the week off. So that's just a quick definition of what it is. So the first appearance of the bye week was in 1960, and the reason why they and put in the bye week is because the NFL had an odd number of football teams. At that point, they were a 13-team league. So in order to make sure that every team was they could fill up their spots, I guess they would always have one team on a bye week each week so they can have an even number of games. And this happened relatively often in the 1960s. In 1966 and 1967, the AFL, which was the American Football League before it became the American Football Conference, had uneven teams. So they also had bye weeks where each team would be off every week of the season from week 1 to the end of the season. In 1990, they ended up extending to 16 weeks of NFL games. So they orchestrated a permanent bye week for each team, and that was between the weeks of week 4 to week 12. And in 1993, they actually experimented with a 18-week season. So what we have now, and they actually instituted 2 bye weeks for that season. So maybe we could potentially see 2 bye weeks in the future because we are now playing one extra game. But in 1999, 2000, and 2001, Cleveland was once again added back into the NFL, and that made the number of teams odd once again. So they went back to the old way of where the bye week happened every week from week 1 to week 17. And in 2002, when the Houston Texans were introduced to the NFL, they went back to the bye week schedule that we have today. So that's just a quick history lesson on the bye week. And hopefully we all learned something new. I sure did. I had no idea why there was a bye week. I just thought it was to give people rest. So that's the bye week history.
The more you know. The
Yeah,
more you know.
and if someone wants to give me a bye week count, please do. I would love to know how many times I said that in that history lesson. But
So
yeah,
why don't we get right into the fun stuff?
let's move on. Sorry to bore you guys. So the Cowboys will be playing the Minnesota Vikings on Halloween night, Sunday Night Football. A lot of recipes for disaster, in my opinion, if you were to be pessimistic about the game. But it should be a very exciting matchup. The only uncertainty is Dak Prescott's availability, and we we were both under the impression that Dak would play on with having a week of rest, but that's a little bit uncertain now. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But let's just talk about some key matchups for this game and how these players could impact the matchup. So what players do you think will have the most impact or could have the most impact?
So right before I get into that, talking about the calf strain. So it was originally reported that Dak and Michael had different strains, or Michael Gallup had different strains, but then it came back that they did have the same type of calf strain. It's just that a quarterback and a wide receiver move differently, so their bodies will react differently in game to this particular calf strain. But getting right into it, on defense, I think on offense it's kind of self-explanatory. You know, Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook. We'll see how he does, and their stud wide receiver duo. But on defense is where it gets interesting because if Patrick Peterson was playing, then he'd be number one. But he is in the IR. Hopefully he can come back healthy soon. But the main players are Everson Griffin, who was an ex-Cowboy. He played for Dallas last year, who has always been a Viking before last year. And I think that he'll definitely be looking forward to showing Mike Nolan while he's on the couch that he deserved to be on this team, and that whenever Mike Nolan's like standing up for, because Griffin's always been like a hand in the ground, so 3-point stance, and Nolan tried to change all the DNs into standing up while rushing the passer, which I don't think Griffin liked too much. I think that he's gonna have a chip on his shoulder. And then the Vikings linebacking core, Anthony Barr, who should have been a Jet, but it's another discussion, and Eric Kendricks, who are definitely two of the better linebackers in the league. And although Anthony Barr doesn't have the stats as of right now that he has had in past years, Eric Kendricks has had a pretty good season to start off, and Dalvin Tomlinson, who is their defensive tackle, and in the reason why he's on here is Tyler Biotish in week pass going up against defensive tackles who are 300 pounds plus. He has he has done pretty horrid. So hopefully he'll be able to turn that narrative and show the Dallas Cowboy front office that he deserves to be out there. Because I could assume that there's going to be a lot of offensive line changes in the next few weeks. And lastly, Harrison Smith. He's always been a staple of this Vikings defense, and he's always been up there in top safety conversations. And he will be accompanied by Ray's personal best friend, Xavier Woods. So
Actually, I have one thing that I did not disagree with, and that was the last thing you said. My best friend is actually Aaron Rodgers,
oh, okay,
and
makes
then
sense.
it's Xavier Woods.
I guess Rogers trumped Woods last night with his win.
He did, and his Instagram stories were quite hilarious. And I actually did
Yes.
send him a text message and congratulate him on his hilarious stories as well as his great win.
Yeah, I don't know if my girlfriend found listening to this at all, but she sent me like a good 10 memes of them last night, and ESPN and NFL IG memes did a pretty great job yesterday with all of them, and I like how Aaron kind of made fun of himself too, which is always nice to see from the big old diva.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
just a disclaimer, I don't actually have Aaron Rodgers' number. I'm not that cool. But I would like to think that I have his number, as well as a lot of other, famous NFL players. That's how I get all of my scoops.
all from Justin Tucker.
Exactly.
All right, so I think obviously defense is kind of where this game is gonna be decided because both are star studded. Some positions Dallas is better at, and some the Vikings are better at. But I think this game is definitely going to be decided on defense for both teams, and I'm interested to see who your key players are.
Yeah, so I agree with both all the names you mentioned. I think they're going to be very important. I really think the X factor player of this game is going to be Dalvin Cook, and the reason that I think that is because we know that Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen are going to be very hard to stop. But I think if the Vikings can get Dalvin Cook going, it's going to be pretty much impossible to stop the Vikings offense because we're not going to be able to blitz when we want to. We're going to be basically playing at the mercy of Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins is a good enough quarterback to be to whenever he's whenever he's got his offense going and the running game going to be able to pick apart any defense. So I think especially with our secondary really being based off one player's success, he can't cover everybody. Trayvon Diggs cannot cover everybody. So if Dalvin Cook gets going, it's going to be really hard to stop them on offense. With moving on to the defense, I think that their defensive line is going to be very important to keep in check. I've seen some reports and some stats of their D line is one of the best in football right now. They also have a very good linebacker core. Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr, like you said, they're very good. So their front seven is pretty dominant. I would say their back end is not very good. Xavier Woods, he he's just a guy out there. He was a guy in Dallas, and he's just a guy in Minnesota. However, I do have a very sneaky feeling that if Dak were to play, Xavier Woods might find himself with the football in his hands. But that's just me. But Harrison Smith, he's a very good safety. Well, something to look out for. And then Rashad Breeland, he played in Washington back when they were known by a different name. But I don't really know much about him as a player, but the fact that he's still in the league, and I guess starting means that he's okay. So any corner starting in the NFL, unless they're coming off the practice squad, is someone you should look out for.
Hey, even the practice squad player last night, the guy that intercepted. Funny enough, the guy that intercepted Kyler was on the Cardinals practice squad,
Well,
and they signed him like 3 weeks ago.
hmm, I stand corrected, but also AJ Green, you should be ashamed of yourself.
He should. He should.
But yeah, so I think that this game is really going to come down to whether or not we can slow down Dalvin Cook. I don't feel very confident about that based off what our performance was against the Patriots, who are not as explosive on offense and really relied on their running game to stay in the football game, as well as Dallas's mistakes. But I think Minnesota, they've had a very good season so far. They were unfortunately were a missed field goal away from being 4-2 right now, and I think that Kirk Cousins is playing one of his best season, having one of his best seasons so far as a quarterback, and I think it's going to be a pretty challenging to contain him.
Yeah. I agree with basically everything you said. Only one thing is that when you talk about Diggs not being able to cover everyone, when the Dallas faced Minnesota last year around the same time, November 22nd of last year. And for everyone that watched Dallas last year, when Diggs broke his foot, he missed this game. And the Dallas defense was the exact opposite of what it is. The names on the personnel on this team is completely different. And I I think that even in Dalvin Cook and Justin and Adam, they all three of them went off, and so did Kirk, and they somehow found a way to win the game last year without Dak. So I definitely think that it'll be a tough game, but I'm looking forward to seeing how if Dak can play, how Dak does, because whenever Dak throughout his career has usually had I don't know if Dak has lost to Kirk Cousins yet. He
He's
might
lost
have
to him one
won.
time in 2019.
Oh yeah, was that off that was it was against the Redskins, right? Or sorry, against the football team, right?
No, in 2019 they played the Vikings and
Oh
they
yeah, freshman year. Yeah. I remember that
yes,
game. What a rough game that was.
quite unfortunate.
Yeah, it was. I remember you and I were on the edge of our seats of how upset that was.
Yes, it was quite a dark day or a dark Sunday night for sure.
Yeah, but hopefully yeah, I think that's it. I think Diggs, I know that he has an ankle injury right now, so hopefully he'll be able to. Because the way that I look at it is that Diggs isn't really the strongest against fast wide receiver or like wide receivers like McLaurin and people like that. So I think he'd have a much better game against Thielen, but then you have to have Anthony Brown on Justin.
Bless you.
Bless you,
Sorry.
sir. So I it's a lose-lose situation either way, but hopefully Dallas and the Dallas defensive coordinator, who has escaped my mind for the second, for
Dan Quinn,
Dan Quinn, thank you, can
the
scheme
head
for this
coach of the
game,
football team.
can scheme for this game and make it so that it doesn't go how it did last year. Because if Cook, Thielen, and Justin have similar games where they did last year, I don't know if anyway Dallas can pull it off 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
So
especially with the chance that Dak could not play. I think I'll go into a little bit more detail on what they would have to do to win,
yeah,
but at this point, I would give it a 5% chance. If
mhm.
Dak were to not play, then they'd have a 5% chance of winning. But yeah, those I think this game has a chance to be a very entertaining shootout. And as I mentioned multiple times and also on Twitter, the Cowboys are not very good in those situations, but they showed 2 weeks ago that they could win in a shootout, and hopefully they will do it once again on prime time and on Halloween. So I think it's going to be a really exciting game. But to transition,
Wait, but one more second before we get into that. Remember when the Cowboys played the Giants with that black cat? Was that around Halloween? Remember they were losing badly, then like a black cat ran across the field, and
I
then they won the game. It was in New York,
I think
because
it was I
maybe
think
we
it was
can go release
November.
the black cat in Minnesota, and we can have some good things happen there.
I
But
think I think we should only resort to that scenario if we are playing Cooper Rush. But if we're not playing Cooper Rush, then I think it could actually be a detriment, and we would end up losing because we let a black cat loose on the field.
well, I'm just happy that Cooper has been getting some extra reps, because you never know. So,
Yeah, he
but
does.
if
He is a redhead.
I feel like if the Cowboys knew that they weren't gonna play Dak, then I think that they would have signed a quarterback who has more experience than Will Greer, and who the ex Panther, right?
Yes,
He's from West Virginia.
former West Virginia QB who beat Texas in epic fashion.
Yeah,
Shout out to
former.
all my Texas friends. I'm sorry for your loss, but not really.
And who knows? Maybe Cam Newton can get some
Actually,
run
Cam
at
Newton was
QB2.
signed by Seattle, I believe. That
I
might
don't
have been
think
a
so. But when
joke
recently,
recently. Just to fact
I
check
didn't see
myself.
anything like that. I feel like if he got signed, the whole world would erupt. But who knows? I mean, if he is gone, maybe RG3 can come out of the booth to
Never
to,
mind.
to
That was a joke. Just because Geno Smith played so bad. My mistake. Never mind.
Yeah. Well, I know this is your outside of break from reality. The game plan is really where you shine. So let's get right into it.
Okay, so I've broken this down into two categories. Number one is the Dak Prescott game, which would referring to him playing, and then also the Ice Pack Dak game where he would not be playing. So I'll start with the worst case scenario of Dak not playing. So what would the Cowboys have to do to somehow and probably win the football game? Number one, they would have to run the ball a lot. So, Zeke, this is your time to show that your new diet, your personal chef that you brought in, your new workout routine, whatever, has paid off because I believe, my friend, you will be getting 30 carries in that scenario. So, we would have to run the ball a lot. Tony Pollard would get into the mix as well. So, I'm thinking maybe 40-ish carries from the running backs. And if we can get the running game going, which I believe we can, especially with our offensive line depth improving for this game, with Lyle Collins being active once again, then that will give us an opportunity to run some play action. And I think the best way to be successful with a backup quarterback is to run a lot of play action off a successful run game, because it has the defense isn't just playing coverage, forcing the QB to make tough reads in the secondary. He's able to play action, roll out, and find a receiver short on a crossing route or a swing route or whatever, slant drag, whatever, and get some easy yards. I think if what we cannot do is do the have the scenario where where Kellen Moore believes that he can just call the same game plan and be successful, because I don't trust Cooper Rush to be able to throw the ball deep all the time, just because I haven't seen him throw it deep in a regular season NFL game. So I think having a lot of short passes and play action off 40 runs. What is the best way to go? Because ultimately that will chew the clock, have the time of possession way in our favor, keep Kirk Cousins, Captain Kirk Cousins, and the Vikings offense off the field, and it will give us a better opportunity to win the football game. Next thing, we need some takeaways. Trayvon Diggs, I need multiple takeaways from you and your defense. So if we get some takeaways, that will give us a short field most of the time. And most of the time, if we were to get the takeaways and on their side of the field, and it would just give us easier opportunities to score. So having a short field, you're closer to the end zone, you're more likely to get in the end zone. So I think, especially with the backup quarterback, giving them the short field is the best way to get touchdowns. And with that being said, we need to convert points on most of our drives. So I think that what the Cowboys are good at, especially when Dak was out, they did reach the 50-yard line quite frequently, I believe, even with Andy Dalton and Garrett Gilbert for some time, for one game. I think they did a good job of advancing the ball, but they just couldn't score touchdowns. So I think in this scenario, if we can get some field goals on most of our drives, that would be beneficial, and then get those touchdowns on the takeaways. I think that would be our best chance of winning. With that being said, I think we'd have a lot better chance of winning if we had Garrett Gilbert as our starting quarterback. I'm not really sure why he is not our starting quarterback, especially with his performance against Pittsburgh last year. I think he would be a better option than Cooper Rush, but I'm not the GM or the coaching staff, so I don't really know why they made their decision. But that's just my opinion. But I do think that there's not a 0% chance the Cowboys could not win this game, because they are playing Kirk Cousins, who is a good quarterback and having a great season for his standards. He's improved every year, but he's also not very good on prime time. So, or he doesn't have a good record on prime time. So I think there's a lot of scenarios where the Cowboys could steal this game, but ultimately, for that game plan that I mentioned, I think that's their best chance of winning. So any thoughts on that?
No, I definitely agree with that. I didn't go into much depth about Dak not playing because I think that Dak will definitely play because he said that he will, and the trainers are the only ones that would be able to hold him back. And Dak said that if he did not play, he'd be disappointed. And I don't think you want to disappoint your quarterback or your franchise quarterback. So I think Dak will be playing. Before we get into my game plan, I was looking at Kirk's second cousins.
I just want to make one quick point. Last night, we had a completely different Owen. Owen was very concerned about Dak's well-being, telling me Dak is not going to play. He was sore. He was hurting. The coaching staff doesn't want him to play. Not the coaching staff. The trainers are concerned. The coaches are concerned. And I said, relax. If Tony could sleep in a chair and uncomfortably for 9-10 straight weeks after suffering cracked ribs and a punctured lung, Dak can play quarterback on a calf strain. I mean, Aaron Rodgers even did it. So Dak should be able to.
This is why messing with Ray is one of my favorite things to do in life. So, Kirk Cousins versus winning teams. Let me paint you a picture. Cousins is 7-31, so 7 wins and 31 losses as a starter against teams with a winning record in his NFL career. This includes a 3-8 record against winning teams since coming to the Vikings in 2018.
Darn, that is not sunshines and rainbows.
It is not at all. Since signing his $84 million contract in 2018, the Vikings are 19-15-1, which is average. And Kirk Cousins on Sunday Night Football, and this was written as of last year, so this is probably a little different, but this is a year ago, so yeah. On Sunday Night Football, he has made 6 career starts, and In those six career starts, he is 4-2, and he is 2-1 with Washington and 2-1 with Minnesota. And in these games, which he is 4-2, he has a 73.2 completion percentage, 15 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, and he has also won his last two years ago. So I guess in 2019 he won both of them. Now the issue with Kirk is his um Monday Night Football success. That is a completely different story. But the first thing that I want to get into was when I looked at the depth chart for the Vikings and saw that Patrick Peterson was not playing. I wanted to see how their run defense was doing. Because if Zeke and Tony Pollard can take over the game, then I'm going to feel a little less stressed out about the outcome. So week one, they played the Bengals, and Mixon ran for 127 yards. Then they played the Cardinals, and Edmonds ran for 46 yards. Then week three, they gave up 112, which was their leading rusher. Week four, Browns 100 yards. Week five, the Lions 57, and then week seven against the Panthers 61 yards. So they've definitely given up some big games, but the past 2 weeks they've done a lot better against the run D. Given they did play the Lions, who are definitely the best 0-7 team in NFL history, and they played the Panthers, who completely fell apart after losing to Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. So I get the numbers are definitely skewed. And the last time they played a good rushing team and in the Browns, they gave up 100. And some could say the Browns are a better rushing team than Dallas, but you'd have to look at the stats for that. But for my game plan, Dak's obviously not going to be 100% healthy. I know that he's been pushing it in practice, so being a little sore is expected with that. But they have to keep Dak clean. If that means having your best starting five offensive linemen, we'll get into that later with moving Lyle to left guard, who he played with as a rookie, I believe. And then when Doug Free retired, he moved to right tackle, which was a great move looking back at it. And I think that, well, I don't think, I know that Collins' first welcome to the NFL was when he had like a 15 or 16 mile per hour run, and like all of ESPN was going crazy about it in his rookie or sophomore year, I believe. I'll I forget the game, but I remember seeing people go crazy over how fast he was for his size. So you have to keep Dak clean in the pocket. He got injured on rolling out to his right, so hopefully he'll be able to stay in the pocket for this game to help his calf get a little bit stronger. And Zeke and Pollard are going to have to get the ball early and often. And I believe that I don't think we're going to see too many deep balls from Dak because that's going to cause a lot of movement. And hopefully he will not have to do that very often. So I think Schultz, for all you fantasy owners out there, Schultz, I believe, is going to have a pretty big game because he likes to get open early and often. And I think that's going to be the recipe to this game is getting Schultz and Jarwin active early and often. So that's all that I have. Number one is just keeping Dak upright, and if that means having to chip some of their big defensive ends like Hunter and Griffin, then by all means do what you got to do. But I think that's my game plan so far. That's what I have.
I like that game plan. I completely agree. Before I get into a little bit of what I think they should do when Dak ultimately plays, because it is a set in stone deal, I am very confident that he will play. But before I get into that, just a few comments from Bryson. First, he said he wrote a letter, a very nice letter. Dear Zeke, please don't run all over the Vikings. I have to play them. I have to play you in fantasy, which I attest to those kind words. It's never fun to play against a top running back in fantasy, but unfortunately for you, you are also in the fan. This is the fantasy football league that I am in. So, dear Zeke, please run all over the Vikings so you can lose fantasy. Next question from Bryson once again. Dak is soft. I think his body may be soft. I think he's very mentally strong though. So
That's all that
I,
matters.
which is all that matters unless you're not on the field, which of course is a possibility. However, not very likely.
I think
Then,
all of Dak's quote unquote injuries have kind of been freak injuries because the ankle last year, I think you and I could definitely pull up at least 5 plays where he's been tackled by his ankle and his ankle just didn't break. But I think that the ankle injury was a blessing in disguise because his ankle was definitely not 100%, which is why it broke. If it was strong, that wouldn't have happened. And last year could have been even worse because they started off 1-3. So it was it may have been more entertaining, but I'm kind of glad that it worked out the way it did because Dak was able to shore up his ankle. And like Troy Aikman said, knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't happen. But he said Dak may break his leg, but it won't be that leg or that ankle. It can be anywhere else, but just not that ankle.
yeah, and maybe Dak forgot to do his calf stretches before the game 2 weeks ago. Hopefully he does them this week. And then finally, the last question, Garrett, referring to Garrett Gilbert, former Texas Longhorn QB and SMU quarterback. Um, quite a talking point amongst the people in the state of Texas. But yeah, I wish Garrett Gilbert was starting if the worst came to worst.
He's a Buccaneer, right? I think so. Oh no, our Patriot. Sorry, the Patriot.
Yeah, he is
Good
he
for
is with
him.
he is with Belichick. I feel bad for you, my friend. I feel bad for you. Your life of fun is slowly coming to a close as you are now part of the regime of no fun and all seriousness.
Well, why don't we get right into some score predictions? I'll give mine first. If Dak plays, um, I have 31-17, which might be a little low for the Vikings scoring wise. I'm saying something like a 10 to 15 point game for Dallas. If Dak does not play, 42-10 Vikings.
I assume the 42 points for the Vikings comes from the multiple turnovers
Oh
by
yes.
Cooper
Oh
Rush.
yes. Oh
Okay.
yes.
Okay. I
And
I
10 points, I was being a little nice. It might have been 3, might be.
maybe they got a kick return and that's where the
Or maybe a
points came from.
safety. A safety would be nice.
Yes.
It's the little things in life that matters.
Exactly. I think when Dak plays this game, I think the Cowboys are unfortunately going to take the L this week, but which is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's only one additional loss to their one loss, so they will still be 5-2, which is a very fantastic record. And especially with the teams coming up in the near future, I don't really think that the Cowboys have any chance of losing their huge lead in the NFC East. So I think
And
that a loss will
yeah,
not be the worst thing in the world. But I'm gonna say the score will be 38 Vikings, 33 Cowboys.
it's a good prediction. Also, I can sleep a little easier at night because Deshaun Watson will not waive his no trade clause for the Eagles. He only wants to go to Miami, but Miami will not be. Apparently, there's a trade offer in place, but they're not gonna send it until Watson is cleared of his legal issues.
Which I don't think that will happen before the trade deadline.
No, definitely. It's what November.
It's next week, I think.
Yeah. So it's a shame that Watson has to sit out a year, but the allegations against him are extremely serious. But before this, he was definitely a top 5 quarterback, and he can put up a lot of numbers. He may not have gotten a lot of wins because that team was horrid, but he will. The Texans and I think the NFL fans everywhere are gonna miss him playing, but hopefully these allegations are not true because if they are, then he's gonna have to really look at himself and try to fix some things. But yeah, it's overall going to be a tough game. And pivoting off the score predictions, we're going to talk about the Dak injury, and then Lyle Collins versus Steele, what's been happening in some practices. And then to finish it off, we're going to be doing some week 7 predictions. We did this a few weeks ago, and I won. So I know I had a lot of fun doing it. I think Ray did as well.
I
So
did.
that's gonna be the show. So the Dak injury, I feel like we've dabbled in this a little bit. So hopefully he plays. Did you want to say anything else about Dak, or did you want to get right into Colin versus Steele?
I think that Dak Prescott, I think his injury was serious enough for him to be limited. However, I don't think that he's going to sit this game out because
Yeah.
sitting out just raises even more questions about his long-term health. And I think Dak would much rather like to play, especially after missing 12, 13,
Yeah.
12, 13 games last season.
Yeah.
So I think I really don't think the training staff will be a huge issue. I think he's going to be ultimately cleared to play, and I think him practicing in a limited fashion is shows that he's on pace. And there was a Jerry Jones said on his daily feature on 105.3 The Fan, he mentioned that he is very confident that Dak Prescott will be playing. So taken straight from the horse's mouth, Jerry Jones, Dak Prescott will be on the field, in my opinion.
I really bet Mike McCarthy hates having Jerry as an owner because a few weeks ago, Mike said something about an injury like report, and he said we don't know yet. And then Jerry got on his podcast and was like, "Nope, this is gonna happen." And it's like, at least have some respect and protection over your head coach. Is he the only owner that has his own talk show and talks before the coach does, or did they stop doing that?
I think he's the most outspoken owner,
Yeah,
but I think
B-
that there are a lot
besides the
there.
Patriots owner,
Well,
who's
I don't think Robert Kraft messes with Bill Belichick's roster moves, other than when Tom Brady was a little concerned that Jimmy Garoppolo might take over his position. That was the one
yeah,
time he stepped in. But I think there are a few other owners that are pretty outspoken, but I don't know them on the top of my head.
yeah.
However,
I feel like Lynch for Denver talks not a lot, but especially with like the quarterback controversy, he talked about that. I think the most iconic owner is Jacksonville. I think his facial hair is definitely hilarious, and he is top 5 for just facial hair. Who else?
I think the Eagles owner is very active.
Yeah, he's a younger guy, right?
I'm not sure. I just know he's been a little bit
Or
more
just the
active
GM.
with the
Yeah,
Carson Wentz situation
yeah, yeah,
over the last few years. But I mean, if you look back on it, the last Cowboys head coach who really had power was Bill Parcells. Every coach after that, from Wade Phillips to Jason Garrett to now Mike McCarthy, have really just been dealing with Jerry Jones, who is the ultimate puppet master of the football team. So I think that it's just miscommunication. Mike McCarthy is Jerry Jones is not letting Mike McCarthy in on the loop of what is actually happening, and Mike McCarthy thinks he has more power than he actually does. So I think it's a little bit of both.
yeah. It's really weird. But it's I don't think there's gonna be any head coach for the next few years who hopefully Mike can stay along and stay because I know Kellen Moore, the NFL, I think recently just allowed that teams in need of a head coach can talk to other coaches in like the last 3 weeks of the season. So Kellen Moore will get calls. So will Eric Bieniemy of the Chiefs, who's a weird offensive coordinator because he doesn't call any plays, but he's so sought after. And Kellen Moore, he's really young, but he will be getting a lot of calls. And I think Jerry's gonna have to sit him down and may have to go take him for a spin on the yacht to tell him why he should stay here. Because I think one of the biggest reasons why Dak has been so successful is because he's had the same offensive coordinator, and they even played together when Dak was a rookie. And I think that a lot of these quarterbacks who were young, like Zach Wilson, he may have a new offensive coordinator next year. Baker Mayfield had a new offensive coordinator like basically every year. And that messes with them because they have to learn a whole new playbook. Or you could be just like Jamarcus Russell and not watch tape, which is another way of looking at it. And the
Or
not
Ryan
suggested
Leaf.
one though. Did both of them did it though, right?
I think
Jamarcus
Ryan. I
Russell.
think I think Ryan Leaf was just really bad, and Jamarcus Russell was bad and also lazy.
You know the story about Jamarcus Russell, right? Where like they sent him a
I
tape
do.
and it was
I
blank.
do.
That's the best story ever. It's a great one. But Collins Steele, obviously, I said before, Collins was a undrafted free agent, and the Cowboys signed him. He was undrafted due to a he was accused of sexual assault, and those charges were dropped. And he was an LSU offensive lineman, and the Cowboys signed him, which was a weird move at the time. It was going to the stereotype that Dallas just has a whole bunch of convicts on their team, and he was the left guard when who the left guard left the year before that, I forget. Doesn't matter. Left guard before that year was he went to what team did he go to? Doesn't matter.
Ron O'Leary went to the Broncos.
Yes, there you go. Leary, I did not want the Cowboy. I wanted the Cowboys to resign him because he had a really big year that year. I think that was the year that Darren McFadden had like 1,000 rushing yards or something like that. Look at me. I know football. So
20, that's a 2015, 2016 area. That's your specialty.
oh yeah, it is. Anything before that, nothing. Darren McFadden. Who else was it? It was another running back who was halfway decent that they signed.
That running back. I don't remember, but he wasn't on the team very long because he was arrested.
No, not Randall.
Not Randall.
I'll figure it out after the show. So
They had
Collins obviously.
Alfred Morris on their team for a little bit.
No, I think he was an ex-Raider, or I'll figure it out later. It's gonna bother me, but I'll figure it out later. If you want to look it up for me, that'd be great.
Well, I
2015.
mean, Darren McFadden was on the Raiders.
It was a different one, I
Different
think.
one.
I don't know.
Okay.
2015 Cowboys depth chart. If you want to look that up, that'd be great.
I will.
So Collins obviously got suspended. He said that he did not bribe anyone. Who knows what happened there? Because someone's lying, and I doubt the NFL would lie about something like that. I doubt Collins is gonna say, "Yeah, I did it." So I guess. I think the Cowboys. I think what they're doing is great. I think that they're showing Collins that he has to earn his spot back because I think if, like I say this every week, if Garrett was the coach, I think Collins would just have. Who was it?
Lance Dunbar.
No, not him. There was a
Well, he's
different
on
one.
the roster.
I missed Lance Dunbar, but it was another one who had like a funny last name.
Okay, hold on. I will keep looking.
Okay. So I think it's great. I also think that it shows Steele's gonna have some confidence in himself that he deserves a starting spot. And I think for the past few weeks there have been at least one play where you're looking at Connor Williams and you're like, buddy, what are you doing? Especially late in the game. So I think that putting Collins at left guard would also be a kick in the head to Williams. So do you have a name or no?
Yeah, so I have. This is the 2015 Dallas Cowboys running back group. Joseph Randall, that didn't last. Lance
Missed that
Dunbar.
guy. Uh-huh.
Wait, that doesn't even make sense. They don't. Maybe did they trade for Derek McFadden?
No, he was a free agent.
This is
It's gonna bother me.
okay. I'm continue.
So I think that the best way to go ahead is that Steele has the right tackle job until he loses it. Because if you put Collins at right tackle, then I think you're telling everyone that it doesn't matter how you perform. that we're just gonna stick to what it was before. So I think that Steele playing really gives him some confidence, and Collins deserves to play. And with the amount of money that they're paying him, he's going to play somewhere. Also, I saw that if he gets cut this offseason, that Dallas gets some cap money, and Dallas is in dire need of some cap money. So hopefully, or cap space, I should say. So maybe that's what they're going to do. Don't really know yet. So in my world, or what I think is going to happen, unless Steele for some reason Nakamura has an injury or Steele just doesn't practice well, I think it'll be left tackle Smith, left guard Collins, center Biotish, right guard Martin, right tackle Steele, and then you have a bunch of people coming off IR like Josh Ball, who was a draft pick, 7th round, I believe. You have depth like McFadden, or not McFadden, McGovern. So I think for the first time in a few years, this offensive line has finally has some good depth to it, and I'm looking forward to what happens.
I am as well. So the improved Dallas Cowboys 2015 depth chart. We have Joseph Randall, Derek McFadden, Lance Dunbar, and then we have Robert Turbin.
Yes, Robert Turbin, the legend. Love that guy.
He came from Seattle.
Seattle. There it was.
Yes.
What a legend. I think he had like a game or two where he scored and I was just screaming his name around my house. What a guy. I miss him.
Quite a guy.
Quite a
I
man
miss
indeed.
you too, Robert Turbin.
I miss McFadden. McFadden, he had such like a distinct and unique like look to him with like his pads and his face mask. Oh, it was like with 20 on the back. Oh, it was a thing of beauty.
He was quite a good running back in his
Quite a good
prime.
running back. And he had a really good year for Dallas, which I did not expect at all.
It goes to show what a great offensive line can do to a average running back.
Yes. Do you have any more thoughts on the Collins/Steele saga?
I will reiterate basically all that you said in a very shorter version, just so we can move on to our week predictions. So I think that the fact that Lyle Collins is not just getting his job back does show some change in the Cowboys coaching staff. I think normally if you're out or hurt, you'll get your job back immediately, regardless of whether or not your backup is playing well. So I think that the fact that they're showing in recent events where with the releasing of Jalen Smith, with the releasing of a lot of the defensive players last year when they weren't performing, they got them off their team even though they signed them for that season. And now the fact that they're forcing Lyle Collins to play his way back into the position, I think it's very encouraging because it's showing that there's a culture swing in Dallas. And I think what most of the problem is of their recent failures and not as much success is because the culture has been very relaxed. And at some positions, players could not perform to their highest standard or get in trouble or miss a lot of time and still get their positions back even when they return. So I think the fact that they're showing players that they have to play their best to get valid playing time shows that they are moving in the right direction in that aspect. And I'm very excited to see that as a fan.
And that can definitely be solidified in both of our minds if KZ is benched. I think he's been having a pretty great year. I still don't know why NFL players or athletes in general just download Uber or Lyft and call someone if you are inebriated. There is no need to drive home and to get tickets and to get suspended or just have tarnishes on your record. I'm sure that if an avid sports fan will pick you up, they'll give you a lift for free. And I'm sure that Jerry will be very thankful and maybe he'll even foot the bill. But please, there's no reason for these constant stupid arrests to happen in Dallas. I'm happy that it's no longer like Joseph Randall, who got arrested for trying to steal underwear, who was a NFL athlete, tried to
making
steal
making making
underwear,
a decent amount of money.
making a decent amount. And yeah, he would have definitely gotten a big contract because he was having a pretty decent year. So
Yeah,
it's
keep in mind he was the starting running back. It wasn't Darren McFadden
yeah,
at that point. He was the starting running back. So
and
he
then
had everything going for him. So, but
and
yeah,
that
I
year
mean,
they would always have Lance Dunbar run on like 3rd and 15, and I'm like, also why? A little bit of a sidetrack. Why was Lance Dunbar always in pass protection on 3rd and 15? I'm taller than Lance Dunbar. Why is he on pass protection in your own end zone? He does not deserve to be there in pass
I
protection.
I think normally he is the third down speedster back in those situations. However, I really have no idea why he was in pass protection. Probably because Brandon Whedon did not know what he was doing.
Remember what I'm
So
talking about, though, right?
yes,
Brandon Whedon wasn't even my favorite quarterback in 2015. It was what was his name? The guy from the Patriots
Matt
who they
Castle.
signed. Oh, the legend.
Well, he didn't know what he was doing. Both of them. But yeah,
I think the most defining play of 2015 was, I forget who he played. He got knocked down. Helmet was like basically off, and he just goes like this, and he's like not mentally there. And I was dying. I was like, "Yup, this is worth it." Zeke is or Joey Bosa or the cornerback Ramsey. They're gonna be worth this disaster. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Collins. Is that, and you want to say anything else? Or you want to get right into the fun stuff?
yeah, just a quick note. KZ, if the money is really a problem for you, you could always walk home if you're that close. Because
Exactly.
I feel like most of these DUIs are just, oh, my house or apartment is 5 blocks away.
Yeah.
But you could always just walk.
Yeah, I'm sure Mike McCarthy or even Dak like sat him down and was like, well, I assume Dak could kind of like
I know
see
for a
eye to
fact.
eye.
I know for a fact that Mike McCarthy spent time with him and had a
Yeah,
one-on-one
and so did
discussion.
Jerry. So hopefully it was just like, hey, don't do this again. He didn't get suspended, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't start.
Yeah, I think I said this to you a few days ago, but I'm just going to reiterate it on the air just because it's very important. I really think that the NFL has a very odd and horrible way of of enforcing discipline. And I think, and I told to you, if they just flipped their policy for being under the influence of weed and made that policy for DUIs and gun charges, you've mentioned that, misconduct, all of that, then it would be just fine because they'll suspend you if they catch you um on weed or
Well,
performance
not
enhancement
anymore.
drugs. Well,
We not anymore. Yeah,
in
they
the
stopped.
past,
Yeah, yeah.
that was a quick suspension. I mean, look at Josh Gordon. He was out of the league for the last 10 years because he kept getting testing
Randy Gregory.
testing positive. Randy Gregory. If they did that for misconduct and DUIs and all of that fabulous stuff, then I feel like a lot of players wouldn't be consistently doing these things because they're just thinking, well, I mean, I'm sure they're not thinking this actively, but it's just the mindset of, well, if I do get in trouble or arrested, then I probably won't be suspended for that long, which I
Yeah.
think is not a very great mindset to have. And I think the NFL just needs to get their act together and figure out exactly what their disciplinary policies are.
Yeah, and I think
But
Roger Goodell is really living up to his Barstool Sports clown shirt because if you want to remember back in 2016, Zeke wasn't suspended for anything else besides the the domestic abuse cases. Everything that happened at St. Patrick's Day, I don't think that had anything to do with it, right?
right,
Okay, so
I believe so.
there, the police report said he did nothing, and there was conclusive evidence of the woman lying. And what happened to Zeke? He got suspended. Now, did it happen? Did it not happen? Obviously, none of us know, but the police said that it didn't happen. Now, Watson, who there is much more evidence or people coming and saying that he did it than Zeke, but Goodell's like, no, we're gonna wait. It's just if you're gonna do it, like be consistent, because you took 6 games away from Zeke when you didn't have to, and Watson, everything happening to him, like he's gotten. It's not as bad as Bauer. I'm just trying to like talk about other leagues. Bauer is obviously worse because there's concrete evidence, and
And
Bauer might not play
he's
ever
actually
again.
suspended.
Yeah,
I feel like the MLB does a great job of suspending
of course,
players.
they're the best with it. They're really really good at it. Now Bauer, there was evidence. He said that he's going to be talking soon, so who knows what's going to happen there. But Watson, what's like 20 women. Now, if he didn't, there's a lot of conspiracy theories that it's all fake and that the owner is trying to get him out. And if that's happening, then the owner should no longer own the Texans. But there's just a whole lot of bad going on, and hopefully this can all be resolved quickly because the NFL is not regarding the Watson thing. They're not really in the greatest of limelight right now, and I think they could definitely like breathe a little better if Watson is either playing and the charges are dropped, or Watson is like, I don't know, could he go to jail? I don't know, or like just in an apartment or his house somewhere for the rest of his life and not no longer part of the NFL. But just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. Now to get into a more
Oh
pleasant and
yes,
happy portion
yes,
of the show.
yes. Do you want to write this down or want me to?
I will write down the predictions, and you share
Alrighty.
the contents of the
All right.
bets.
Let me know whenever you're ready to give you the games.
I am ready.
All right. First game, Panthers Falcons. Do you want me to tell you who I think's gonna win, or just give you the games first?
Um, tell me who you think will win.
All right. Panthers Falcons. I think the Panthers are gonna win that game. I think Sam Darnold is gonna show why he's a halfway decent quarterback.
I think the Falcons will win. Matty
Okay.
Ice to the moon.
What is a stock now?
Yes.
Okay.
Matty Ice is now a stock, along with the Atlanta Falcons.
Week 2 or the second game is Dolphins Bills. Bills will win that game.
Bills. For me.
The Dolphins should do what I did in the Madden franchise with the Dolphins. Just trade Tua right away.
They shouldn't
Trade
do
Tua.
they should not do that because you ended up actually getting fired as the head coach of your own franchise.
That is true. All right. The third game is 49ers Bears. Oof, that's an ugly one.
I'm going to take the 49ers.
Yeah, so am I.
I think Justin Fields is in a bad situation, but he also
Yeah.
isn't very good. So I'm going to take
the other game, Steelers Browns. Baker's supposed to play, I think, so I'll say Browns.
I'm going to say the Browns win, but not because of Baker, because of Nick Chubb, who is back for this week. So
He is?
Yes.
Okay.
I also will be picking the Browns.
Let me know when you're ready. After
I'm
that,
ready.
you ready? After that is Philly Lions. I think the Lions win their first game of the season against the Eagles.
I'm going to take
It's a bad
Philly.
game.
I'm going to take Philly.
Okay.
Because I think that the Lions are so cursed and haunted that, especially with it being on Halloween, they are going to find some inexplicably hilarious way to lose the football game.
Titans, Colts, Titans.
I'm gonna take the Titans as well.
All right.
I think Derrick Henry is too strong for the Colts.
Of course, of course.
All right.
For the Bengals, Jets, I have the Bengals.
I have the Bengals
It's
as well.
pretty great to be able to say the Bengals are a good team because one thing about the Bengals, they don't have an indoor practice facility. So they're going to have to get one of those if they plan on winning for the next few years.
I have been on the Joe Burrow train since he was in college and I saw him play. So I'm very excited to see Mr. Burrow playing well.
We all are.
I was very sad that he wasn't able to play the Cowboys last year,
Yeah, me too.
but hopefully he will be playing them next year. Who knows?
Oh, they play next year together
I said
or against each
hopefully.
other? Okay.
Hopefully he will play.
I think it's every 4 years, but who knows? We may be getting a we're gonna be get we're, I think we're gonna get a Jets game, a
Yes,
Jets Cowboys, which is always my favorite because I have family members who are Jets fans, and it's always a good time to lose to the Jets. Uh,
absolutely.
Rams Texans.
Rams.
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know. I'll go Rams.
Yeah, I mean the Texans. They're pretty good. They could steal the game. Rams.
Yeah,
Jalen Ramsey, you better have 3 interceptions.
Patriots Chargers. Chargers.
I'll take the Chargers, especially after that disaster that they had a few weeks ago. So I think that they're gonna be very encouraged to play their best.
This may be true. Um, Jaguars Seahawks. I have the Jags.
I will also take the Jags. I think the Seahawks are just without Russell Wilson, they're just an abysmal football team with DK Metcalf.
And the Jets have their first round picks. So
Exactly. They're not
Washington
in a good
Broncos.
situation.
Not at all. Washington Broncos. I have the tough game. It's in Denver, so I have no. I have the Broncos.
I'll take the Washington football team.
Interesting.
They are going to get a victory versus the Broncos,
Victory Royale.
and they will improve their record to 3-5.
Buccaneers Saints. I have the Saints.
Interesting. He is trusting his W with Jameis Winston. I'll take the Bucks. I think Tom Brady's going to have another great day without throwing a touchdown to Mike Evans as punishment for his last week.
He threw 3 touchdowns to him after that happened. So who knows?
He didn't know that he was responsible until after the game.
Cowboys Vikings. I have the Cowboys.
I have the Vikings according to our predictions earlier. I will take the Vikings.
And then the Giants against the Chiefs. I will take the Chiefs in a low football game.
I like the Chiefs. However, I'm going to go for the throat this week after losing our first time, and I'm going to take the G-Men.
Wow.
Let's go,
the New York
G-Men.
G-Men.
I think that the Chiefs' defense is horrid enough for Daniel Jones to look like a top 5 QB. So let's go, G-Men.
Let's go, G-Men.
So as of our predictions, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 discrepancies where we disagree. So this is going to be quite a fun matchup.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. Well, I think this has been a good one. A little bit of a break for the bye week, but I know that him and I have, and it was test week, which is always fun. A national holiday here in Waco, Texas.
National holiday everywhere.
Yeah, this is true, but especially national in the city of Waco. And Ray and I have been chomping at the bit to come back. And I, for one, am very much looking forward to seeing Mr. Ray's tweets for this Sunday night football game. And it's gonna be a good one. I'm looking forward to seeing him tweet, and you can find that at America's Team PC on Twitter for all you Twitter fanatics. And it's gonna be a good one. I'm excited to be back, and hopefully there won't have to be any more breaks until finals. But Ray and I will figure it out like we always do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Owen said, it's good to be back. Good to be talking Cowboys football again on air. But that's going to do it for this week. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back next week to recap the results of the Sunday matchups and have a fantastic Halloween, everyone. And go Cowboys.
Go Cowboys.